Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 608. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Soner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, we're talking Harvester, the DOS Classic Adventure series. Matt, what's your favorite 1990s television show?
1990s television show. There's probably there's an answer somewhere. I just don't know what it is.
What was the gut reaction? And when I said 1990s TV show, what was the first show that came to mind?
Sports Center.
Of...
So that's why I was trying to stall. I want to say like the X-Files, but I've watched like 2 episodes of the X-Files. Like I'm just thinking of shows now.
You know what though? I think you can watch 2 episodes of the X-Files and it can be your favorite 1990s show. I say that because I made it most of the way through the X-Files several times, and there's this point in like season 7 or 8 where it just kind of doesn't know what it is anymore, and it gets I don't know. I feel like you can watch the first 3 seasons of that show over and over again, and I have, and it's but you get the flavor of it in the first 2, I think. And just yeah. That revival was not what I'd hoped for. X-Files is a good answer. My gut answer was Our Real Monsters.
You went cartoon. Okay. I was thinking more adult.
No, I was too when I asked the question, but when I asked the question, the image in my head was Our Real Monsters. So I don't know what to do about that. But I like X-Files. Let's go with X-Files. X-Files is a good answer. We might talk about X-Files a bit throughout this episode. There's another very iconic 90s television show that I know I will be mentioning at some point. As we talk about Harvester, developed by DigiFX Interactive, published by Merit Studios, released on DOS first in North America on September 25th, 1996. Back of the box reads, Harvest, population 51. And the 51's crossed out, and it says 50, written in blood. It's a nice little place where the fields and the people are carved into pleasing shapes. The Lodge would like to remind you, gently and lovingly, of a self-evident fact for which they will not be blamed. You can't stay in Harvest without becoming a harvester. And then we have a series of screenshots from the game that, now having played the game, all are basically in the last final areas. Now that I'm looking at this, are you seeing the box art?
Yeah, I've been referring to this as like the last third of the game.
Yeah, like none of this happens early on. I don't think.
Well,
the
no waste man. You see him.
Okay.
That's the only one though, I think.
Yeah, but most of the rest of this you don't get until much later. So we'll talk through our time with the game, the way it plays, the way it looks, the way it sounds, and our lasting impressions of it, all before ranking it on the list. If you've not seen the list before, if you need a reminder, thefreecheese.com/the-list is where we've ranked now 136 video games. There it is. Matt's got you covered. Yeah, we do this every week. We talk about a specific video game. We rank it on the list. Sometimes we stream video games and we rank those on the list, like we just did a few nights, or what was it, last week at this point?
Yes.
And we did that with, why am I blanking on the name of it? Super Off-Road.
Still got it right.
Super Nintendo.
Still got it right there.
Cart, man. Look at that. Anyway, we're talking Harvester this week. Matt, you added this to our season for the year. I knew nothing of it. And I think when you were putting your list together, I don't know that it was a goal to find games that I'd never heard of, but you definitely hinted leading up to it. I think there are some games that you have never heard of that are going to be on my final. This was like in the final hours of like we're leading up to the big reveal. You're like, I think there's some stuff that like just, and this was one of them. Like, had no clue this existed before you put it on the list last year. I had no expectations going into it. Um, I literally like none even actually because I started it and just started playing to see what it was, and it was only after the fact where I might get stuck or I do think like when I installed it on Steam and went to go open it, sometimes Steam will like jump to the community page depending on how you interact with the game in your library. So I think I saw like a screenshot of the baby before I actually saw it happen in the game. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But I really had no expectation for what the game would become by the end of it, or certainly my time with it. What did you know about it before playing? I guess. I
Yeah.
guess before playing and before adding it to the list.
So before I even added it to the list, I really didn't know what it was. It was probably in the summer or spring leading up to it was when I caught wind of this game via some YouTube stuff I was watching. Um, I don't even know. I feel like I watched a video on this back then. And I don't even remember the channel. I can't find the video anymore. So I don't know if it
Huh.
got referenced on with in another video somehow, or if a streamer that also kind of dives into some of this stuff every once in a while brought this up as a weird one. I don't know, but when picking a game for the horror exploration that we're doing, I knew one of these point and click games had to be here because there's so many of them that could
Yeah,
like
yeah.
satisfy the check mark. And this one just seemed like the weirdest one that I haven't like seen all the way through.
And you specifically were doing this because you wanted a horror point and click game.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Um, what does the box art tell you? The front of it, I guess, not the back of it.
Oh, that's the Grim Reaper, or no, like the dude, the hooded figure out with the scythe, right?
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
scythe. Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, there's some like references to buildings and signs and stuff, but I do like the are you talking specifically the tagline here? The most violent
No,
adventure
no,
game
no.
of
Like
all time?
literally, just like no. For me, like looking at the box art when I bought the game on Steam, I was like, okay, cool. We're gonna get hunted by this guy. Like we're gonna have to be like running through. I'm thinking like Goosebumps Escape from Horrorland, the video game. Uh, more like, and you do. It does get a little bit more like fast paced and interactive by the end of it, but yeah, I did not expect to kind of never see this guy. Kind of.
No.
Um. Yeah. No. No. Misleading, but not bad. Uh. Now I'm looking at it again, like seeing DNA's diner on the thing. Like that's cute because yeah, where we end up. I guess before we dive into the game specifically, a couple more things. What other point and click adventure games do we have on the list? We've got last year we did I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I think the year before that, or 2 years before, we did Snatcher, which we played on Sega CD, but it was still kind of point and click. Yeah. Especially if we'd played like the PC-88 version or I forget if it was PC-88 or not. But yeah, we did the Sega CD and it still worked. That's it though, right?
The
Like,
Uninvited. It's the other one.
oh my gosh, right. The Mac Venture game from late last fall. Yeah.
I think that's it
So
though.
yeah, I mean there's definitely others that we've played that have been influenced by that type of gameplay, but nothing that's like explicitly one of these. Um do you play these often? Like
No.
did you before? Like when you were younger, did you ever play any of the
I
like
played like a Pajama Sam and a Freddy Fish, but
yeah.
nothing like to this kind of content.
Is it something where like you feel like you get your fill by playing one of these a year now on the podcast, or do you feel
Yes.
like
Yes.
you don't need any more than
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
I get it.
they're fine. You just, I'll get into it, but like, you just need to walk through at some points.
I I want to dive deep into that this episode because I have a couple of talking points for that one. But ba, 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 ba. This came out in 96. What are you playing in 1996?
Triple play baseball, 97. I like
Yeah.
FIFA, 97. I don't like. It's probably that. Super Mario
Super
World.
Mario World.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, oddly enough, I feel like I would have been playing Twisted Metal was out by then, right? Should have been.
Probably. I don't think I get a PlayStation though until like later in this. I'm thinking like 99, 2000 maybe. Maybe
Sorry,
98.
Wikipedia threw me onto the TV page by default because that's definitely what I'm looking for. Yeah, the first one was 95. The second one was 96. So yeah, I was in these. So I had a little bit of that, getting into the rated T for teen category despite being well far away from being a teen in 96. But definitely was not playing Harvester. I don't know. We had a computer, I think, at that point, but not a computer that had enough going for it where we could have been playing something like Harvester. I don't think. I don't know. We would have been on like Windows 95. Yeah. But I'm glad we played it now. So I suppose let's start with the opening of the game. Throughout the game, you control Steve, and we're just following his perspective through the game. He wakes up in what appears to be his bedroom, and it's sort of just assumed as, you, the player, that you're controlling a guy staying in his bedroom. But as you start to interact with things, you realize Steve has no memory of how he got there or who any of these people are around him. And I'd say, like, generally the setup is there's just this surreal tone to every interaction, everything that you've got going on in the game. Uh, what's the premise of Harvester? How would you set it up?
I think you're onto it. Like you wake up amnesia, and then like you're in the town of Harvest. And it's like I don't know what decade do you want to call that? Because it's not the 90s. Like
It feels. I think they do say that it's the 50s at some point, don't they?
oh, but okay, yeah, that would make sense because the whole color
Yeah.
TV thing. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like you just wake up, it's like 50s aesthetic. Also like I don't know if you noticed in the room, like the room's for like a young child, not for someone the age of Steve.
No, but it did like you kind of have a bit of that like when you like you even though you're a teenager and you've grown up, like you still have some of that stuff that's still like lingering around to an extent, I guess. Um
But yeah,
you
anyway,
also
I was gonna say, but
yeah,
yeah, like 50s, it's like a 50s town, and you start talking to people, and how dare you play a practical joke of forgetting you're about to get married?
right. Everyone
You're such a kidder, Steve.
you're such a kidder, Steve.
Yeah, so like you kind of quickly find out like, oh, you're getting married in a week, and then you kind of talk to Stephanie. Then from there, you kind of get the gist of like she's also in the same situation as you, where like she doesn't remember anything, has amnesia. Also, just figuring out she's getting married in a week, and then you kind of I don't want to say work together, but like you as Steve begin just trying to figure out why and how we're here and all that fun stuff. We
Yeah,
also
like it
you also like get like drops of things like, oh, there's a bake sale coming up, but you're not led
sure.
to like know what the bake sale's for, not at least not initially. You find out later that first day, but not that at that time. And then there's a blood drive later that week, and it's like, okay, all right. And they kind of, as days go along, you kind of build to it. But yeah, this game's kind of built out in terms of a week, right? It's like
Yeah.
day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and then you're inside the lodge, right? Fifth
I
day or
think
sixth
there's a
day?
sixth day.
Okay.
I think there's a sixth and the seventh you're in the lodge. Because the seventh should
Oh,
be the
you're correct.
wedding. And
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
yeah, then like I said, you're kind of building to the stuff of the week. And really the main kind of bit of this after you kind of like figure it out in day 1 is like you were told you should join the lodge by a number of characters. And it seems like this like the big mysterious like building in the middle of Harvest. And like
it's not even like when you hear of like the lodge, when you think of like, I don't know, my first exposure to the lodge was the Flintstones, I guess, where like they were in the water buffalo lodge or whatever. Like, and that feels like a very like 50s thing. Like maybe they still have them. I know there's like little clubs and stuff all around, but it doesn't seem like, I don't know. I feel like people just get on Discord now for the lodge. But
yeah.
back then, I guess it makes sense. But again, like I think the idea of the lodge was that it was like a pub or like a build, like, you know what I mean, like a meeting hall, like it'd be something like that. And this place seems like a monolith. Like it is
Yes, yeah, that's a good word.
it's like a one of those mega churches if it was also a mall in terms of like how much real estate it takes up on the map. But yeah, like it's a central part of the town, but it's also, like Matt said, the central like goal of this game is to get into the lodge, become a lodge member. What did you do with your first hour in the game? Do you remember?
After my debacle was saving, because I forgot how saving
Yep.
worked, and you had to type a name.
You warned me of that, and I still forgot and had to look it up after I'd started. And I was like, oh, Matt said there was something stupid with saving, wasn't it? No, it wasn't that. And I looked it up. I was like, ah, there it is. Got it.
Yeah. So after figuring out saving, my first gameplay hour though, really was just exploring Harvest, the town, and going
Yeah.
into the various buildings, talking to all the characters. And that's like a good bit of your first day, honestly. It's just going through all that. And no, and it seems daunting, but as you start going through the buildings, you kind of realize like it's approachable to talk to all these people, and and it's not like the scale of this game is not quite as big as what it could have been when you start to look at the world map. The world map broken up. Like you leave an area, then you get like an aerial view of the town. It's broken up into 4 quadrants, and you just move your mouse to the edge of the screen. You flip it over. Each quadrant has different buildings. Some of them like share real estate when you go from like the west side to the east side of the map. But yeah, for the most part, each quadrant has at least like 2 exclusive buildings that you can't see in the other quadrants. And it's like your regular town fair. You have fire station, police station, TV station, newspaper building, a diner, school. You got the meat man, as we hinted to last week.
Yeah.
Then your post office, barbershop, couple homes, and your local mortuary. You one of those.
Of course, yeah. The town, yeah. But the thing is, like every single one of those buildings you just named, I don't think there's one of them that does not at some point play a significant role in the story. It either has like a very key item that you need to obtain, or it is a key moment where you have to set it on fire. There's always like something in each one of those that is like mandatory for you to go through. I think no, you have to talk to him. Never mind. Yeah, you talk to everybody.
There's one building that I can think of you don't need, and that's the abandoned house, which is one of the coolest places to go see. You should go.
With the wasp lady?
Wasp woman.
Yeah. You're right. I guess she gives you some hints about things, but
I don't think she has a key item though.
No, you're right. Yeah, there's no like key or anything. But if you're stuck, like it's a good. She kind of picks up on the gossip, I guess, despite not getting out too much.
Her wasp talked to her. I don't know if she actually says that, but I just.
That's the lore. That's the.
May as well be with the way this game goes.
Yeah. Um, I remember like I stepped out of my room and you're in the living room with your brother. Um, I talked to him and he sucks. He's just like an agitated little boy. And then I went into the kitchen, talked to the mom, and at the same time, like that Steve is confused. You're also just sort of like trying to put the grasp around like, who are these people? What is actually happening? Where are we? What's my objective? But I did start to like notice a little bit of like already in the kitchen right away. There's a sign on the wall. It's like it's a stitched sign, and it says "kill them all." Like it's never drawn. Like you can't interact with it and like have it pop up, and it says, or if you can, it just says like it's an embroidery on the wall. It doesn't. But like just that alone was like, okay, something's off here. Like I knew that generally that just from the like reputation of the game, but already you're like something's weird. Okay, I don't know what's happening here. Um, but the thing I picked up right away with talking with the mom is like the satire of the game already, and like you have it in these small layers a little bit with her initial dialogue, but the more you go with her and with is it Pottsmouth, Stephanie's mom,
Potsdam, Mrs. Potsdam.
Potsdam, thank you. The more you interact with her too, like there's a lot of just like good satire about like the 50s mom stereotype. Well, I guess both of them. Like I well, I guess all of the characters to an extent, right? Like they're really like playing with the natural stereotypes. Some of them don't necessarily age too well. Like I don't think all the firemen are particularly well handled. It's like way too far of a stereotype. Um, but generally, I think like I think there was one line that I'm getting way ahead, but one line that Mrs. Potsdam said pretty late on in the game after a pivotal moment, and she's more concerned with what the PTA will say rather than the reality of her situation. It's like little moments like that where you're like, it's stupid, but um, I think it tells a lot about the writing in those moments. Uh, Generally, control wise, it is a point and click adventure game. You nailed the movement stuff. The other main thing you're doing is just like interacting with items, picking them up, putting them in your inventory. You occasionally will combine items in the inventory, and eventually you'll be right clicking to attack things. But that's pretty much it, right? There's no other. There is the keyword entry in the text interactions, but anything else I'm forgetting?
Even that I hardly used. But yeah, no, the inventory system, just like as I was just getting used to it, I accidentally right clicked thinking I could get out of it, but I right clicked on screen. And yeah, early on, Jimmy, the newspaper boy, pulled a gun on me and just pop, 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 dead.
Dang, I did not know. No, I did not have that happen. That's great. Did you have many of those like, whoops, didn't mean to do that moments?
I mean, I learned quickly after the Jimmy thing, but like some of the puzzles, right? Like early on, you're told to scratch a car, and if you do
Yeah,
that in
yeah, yeah.
broad daylight, it kind of is. It's kind of cool to see that play out. I don't know if you did it during the day or if you
No, I did it. I did the yeah.
if you do it during the day, it kind of plays itself out where like, oh, well, Mr. Johnson goes and attacks you, and then like you can straight up just kill him right there. But then as soon as that's
Oh,
over, a cutscene happens where you get arrested, and then you're taken to the police station where more dialogue happens, and then you're given like the electric chair. It ends up like it's like 4 cutscenes in a row though to get you there.
I see. But that's an ending, and
It's
you're
an
not
ending,
like,
yeah. Like yeah, you're not going on, but it was
got it.
just instead of like you scratch cutscene dead, it like just lets you play it out, which is
Oh wow, so you
weird.
like don't even know that you made a mistake,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. At least
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in a couple minutes you find out, but yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. No, that the the kid was the newspaper kid was one of the first things too, where like you interact with the world, and he's not there to deliver newspapers. He's there to pick them up. And the first time I walked out, I didn't pick one up. Like I interacted with it, I think, but I think I gave it to the brother because it was like the way it was positioned in the front of the house. I was like, I guess I'm supposed to give this to somebody inside. I don't know. And I like handed it to him, and he was just mad that I was interrupting his TV show.
Right.
And then I went outside and talked to the kid, and he's like mad at me for not bringing him a newspaper. But then wanted, you know how eventually you trade him,
Mm-hmm.
you give him the shoes for something.
The key to the
The
broom closet
Yeah,
at the
the
school.
storage room. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, when I didn't give him a newspaper on the first day, the first time, he told me about knowing that that those two get up to bad stuff in the broom closet at the school. He didn't tell me he'd give me the key or it wasn't any of that, but it was just like he let that on, and then I was like, all right, and he like kind of marched off screen mad at that point that I didn't bring him a paper, and then I did something. I don't remember getting a game over. I think that was when I started to mess with saves and I screwed it up. And I was like, well, I just started. I know how to get back to where I was. And at that point, I held on to the newspaper because I was like, he had told me like he's
Right.
mad at me for not bringing him one. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. I'll grab it this time. Um, what do you think of the inventory system overall, besides accidentally right clicking and hitting somebody?
I mean, it's fine. It lays out what you need. It's way too big because you never amass that many items, but
No.
it's. I mean, it's fine. Or I wish the icons were maybe a bit bigger to use more of that real estate. But that's about it. I mean, you can scroll over and it gives you the little text, and then you just
Yeah.
click, drag off screen or off the menu, and then it allows you to interact with the world. Um, it's
Yeah.
fine.
It's not the worst. There were a few moments where I was like, is that where's the like when you needed the glue, I was like, where's the glue? Is it that? Nope, not the glue. Okay. Yeah. Uh I mentioned a couple of things about satire, but what else stands out to you humor wise, satire wise, from character, story, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of play into it, right? Or you kind of said every character has like this extreme version of themselves, like you have the single parent that's trying to make a living to give their kid a living. You have like the very strict teacher like that like is borderline abusive, maybe not even
Yeah,
borderline, just abusive, very
definitely
strict.
abusive.
Um, you just kind of like go into each of these different buildings and you talk to people and they just all lean in a certain way. They all have these like um weird like quirks or whatever, but they all know Steve. They all call him a kidder. Like, oh, I heard you were trying this amnesia thing. I didn't think you would keep it
Right.
up.
This
um
old thing.
yeah, there's just some strange characters too, just in general, but no,
Who do you
just
think is the strangest character, or who's the weirdest one?
big fan of the dude that tries to sell you aluminum siding all the time.
Oh, what is his name?
I don't remember the
Yes, I
name.
love him a lot.
By the way,
This game,
tell your dad that he should get some aluminum siding for his house.
but like you interrupt his conversation with the other guy trying to convince him to buy some. Then he tells you he's getting out of the siding. Just yeah. Yeah, he's a really good one. I generally while playing this game, I felt like the developers heavily pulled from Twin Peaks in terms of let's create some weird characters and whatever. But that guy was like straight out of Firewalk with me. Like it almost was the same actor. It wasn't, but it's like he was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, they really like Twin Peaks when they made this. Um, I'm also a big fan of. I'm not a fan of Mr. Potsdam in the sense that I like him as a person or a character, but he's just so weird and gross that like I can't help it. I'm like fascinated by him. I love that his living room, he has a giant portrait of someone eating raw meat behind him. I kind of want that like to hang up somewhere down here. I think it'd be a nice look. Um,
Also, big fan of the grounds. There, the dude at the lodge, like the main dude that's at the front of that building. Not
The
because
guy
he's
who speaks to you telepathically?
yeah, yeah, does it, and it's the same clip. It's the same fucking clip every time. I'm
It
like,
doesn't need to be
we're in
anything.
the last third of the game. He's doing this. It's the same fucking clip. I'm dying by the end of this game. Just like,
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else I liked. I don't know. The Mortician was odd. I wrote, what was that quote I wrote down of his that got me pretty good? Uh, oh, later on, there's one of the times you go to visit him. He's just stoked that there's no body to prepare. I forget, I didn't write down the exact quote, but just the way he's just like, this is an ideal corpse. Like, this is, yeah, bizarre. Um,
yeah, this, yeah. I like the. I think this is the best part of this game.
it's just
Just,
the weirdos.
just exploring Harvest.
Yeah, I
And
think so
like
too.
talking to someone, talking to each of these people, like the missile base dude, like
Yeah,
I had to save every time I talked to him because I didn't know what was going to happen, and it was
no.
awesome.
I found a couple more quotes I wrote down. Um, when you talk to Stephanie about Karen having gone missing, um, her response is, "When was Karen kidnapped?" And then you tell her it was Tuesday, and she's like, "God, Tuesday night was a bad night for everyone. Our toilet was backed up." She elaborates. There's more to it, but just that line alone got me really good. Um, later on, like, this is a library, not a brothel, was pretty good. Uh, the death that happens, uh, they say it might be natural causes. Someone can't live without a spine. That was pretty good. The thing that, like, the first note I like actively wrote down though was just the name Sheriff Dwayne. And there's a real subtle, you can hear it when people say his name. They say Dwayne. Like, there's a difference between Dwayne and Dwayne. That one got me really good. Um, the signed meat permission slip was another, like, just the concept of it. Like, I think that was what it was called in your inventory once
Mm.
you had it. Was just like meat permission slip. I don't know.
Yeah, the town's a
Yeah,
mess. That like,
very much so. The people are, I mean, obviously all bizarre. A lot of this game, your goal is to join the lodge, and you every day basically have a different initiation task that carries you forward. Is this the original BioShock? Like, did you get that vibe by the end of it of just like, why am I doing this? Am I only
not
doing it because
necessarily
I'm being told to?
why. Uh,
Yeah, I guess you kind of have to, but
yeah, I never thought Bioshock per se, but no, just the constant like asking to be done things. I could see that.
yeah, that and just the like,
I just like the whole
could you
thing. It just reminded me like a cult initiation. Like
very much so.
that's
Yeah,
where I
yeah,
was just
yeah.
like, yeah, you're this. The lodge is a cult. Just what when I get into those doors, what am I gonna find?
Yes. And we found a lot. Do you want to dive into that stuff a little bit? Because that's kind of when the gameplay changes up
Yes.
quite a
Yeah.
bit. I
Yeah.
guess, like, plot wise, you wake up, it's a weird town, you don't know what's happening. You talk to people, and you need to start doing things to get into the lodge. That next part of the game is you're in the lodge. Um, and then you have to make your way through the labyrinth of the lodge.
Yeah.
And all that leads to a choice at the end. And yeah, and the ending, right?
Yeah, but I would say the gameplay, not that you're not doing the puzzle stuff with Harvest, it's just like you have the opportunity to talk to everyone again after events and get everyone's perspective and see how people react to different
Mm,
things.
yes.
Especially major things like buildings burning down, major deaths, stuff like that.
Yes.
Which I think this, like, again, I think it's the best part of this game because of how weird and satirical and the humor and all of it, and just like it just oozes that 50s vibe wherever you click. Um,
Hmm.
then the Lodge, it that's when this game settles into its point and click puzzle genre because like
And you're right. It's a little more fast paced. Like you have to deal with the consequences kind of right away in most of those interactions.
yeah, and then it incorporates more so as a require or it is a requirement at this point, the world's worst combat system.
Yeah. Um, you weren't a big fan of the sight.
I mean
How
it.
did you just rely on the shotgun as much as possible at that point, or
At this point, I'm full on walkthrough, so I'm being told when to use the shotgun.
I see, I see. Um, I maybe this is a good point to talk about the walkthrough piece. I too started turning to a walkthrough, and I'm curious if you think that by doing so, we are missing the point and the full weight of the game and the impact it could have.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because one, you're just kind of bulldozing, and part of this game is talking to everyone and getting the like I don't want to say hints, but like the hints to
Yeah, yeah.
progress stuff. Um, but some of these games, the puzzles are just so ridiculous that like I don't know if I
Oh,
would
yeah.
ever figured out any of this, even if I sat there for 5 hours talking to everyone.
I'm with you, but I also don't have an answer on whether or not I would. I thought recently I read a thing someone wrote about playing Majora's Mask, and it reminded me that I've never completed Majora's Mask because what happens with Majora's Mask specifically, that game is on that time loop, so you always have that sort of pressure to be done, but also like manipulating time's a part of it and like resetting the clock, but making sure you've done something in that 3 days. Like you kind of always have to be like min maxing your time so that you're like moving certain story beats ahead to see them through before the end of the third day. So you get the thing that you can actually carry back with you that doesn't reset before resetting and chasing another one. But every time I've sat down to play that game, whether it was, I think I borrowed a friend's on N64, I definitely watched a friend play it, uh, Virtual Console, the Switch stuff, the 3DS remake, like anytime I've tried to play it, it's always been like, I'm going to play this game. It's the one that I've never finished, and I feel like I should finish it. I get up to like the point where you start learning some songs on the ocarina, maybe, and then I'm like, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
get to the point where I can manipulate time and I'm good there, but then, like, what do I do? And I go to the guide and I look at the guide and I'm like, oh man, if I'm not doing exactly this stuff, I'm going to waste so much time. And I feel like that's why A, I've never finished it because the game becomes me playing a checklist versus me playing Majora's Mask. And B, I just feel like I'm not getting the thing out of it, right? Like I think part of Majora's Mask is talking to people, learning their schedules, learning whatever you're supposed to learn about the world and the habits of people and like naturally see it through. And I thought about that a lot while playing this of like I couldn't. And also like time wise, we couldn't because we're up against it. We do a game a week, folks, and we want to as many of these as possible see through to the end of these so that we're coming in here having completed it. But to do that, like sometimes it's like I gotta look this up, man. I don't have time to like just sit and toil endlessly. But I do wonder. It made me think like, am I ruining this game from? Not that I didn't like this game, but like, am I like missing out on a part of the experience by not getting lost in it. And I guess there's that, but I guess yeah, also like do you think, and it sounds like no, do you think we could have played this without a guide? Like is there one of these you think you could ever like sit down and go all the way through, and like what would be your approach if you were going to? Pen and paper?
Yeah, it's some version of it, whether it's a digital notepad or whatever. I mean, I did that somewhat in this game too before I really started leaning on the walkthrough. It was
Yeah, 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 me too.
like, all right, like these are like kind of like quote unquote like my active quest, and I kind of like just log them of like things like to go explore. Like this character says something about this. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like, it's doable. I just think it like I don't know. I don't want to like sound down on our situation. Oh, damn, I have to play a game a week. How dare
No, no,
I?
no, but
But like, it's like I don't, the sinking 50 hours into this game, it's just not doable. Not when I was
yeah,
like
no,
expecting to beat it like within 10.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. I
um,
fully get that.
no, but I think like I think you truly miss stuff if you're just walkthroughing in the harvest part. In the lodge part, I don't think you're missing much.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the lodge is pretty specific and quick.
Can be quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. No, and I think like Majora's Mask is a different version. It just that was one fresh where I did recently start a playthrough of Majora's Mask where I was like, I'm just going in raw and I'm gonna keep a note of me playing, and like I'm looking at the note now, dude. I have like notes from the very first bit and then I stopped. You know what I mean? Like I already bailed on it because I don't know. Maybe it's something with that. Maybe it's I just don't know. Um yeah, that that kind of hits what I wanted to hit on with that. It just I thought of it where I was like feeling bad about using a guide, but then I'm like, I don't know how I would have gotten that. You know what I mean? Like I talked to everybody. I looked around. I poked at everything. I'm clicking things in the room, and like I didn't get that one. Um, before we jump to the ending, is there anything else gameplay wise you wanted to hit, or any of the story beats just along the way? Any of the stuff specific in the lodge that you want to talk about? Playing chess, or
Um, no, I the harvest stuff like towards the end of that week is crazy. I think just seeing that stuff through it was cool. Just like whole buildings are now just gone. like
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um
Because of you.
yeah, or the actions and someone else does the dirty work for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I think like just going through the end of that harvest bit is good. I think this game really the gameplay loop for the lodge part kind of like again it kind of loses me there. And I think the stuff in the lodge is more like shock factor than it is like progressing the story.
Yeah, by the time you get there, there's just so much, and it is like a lot of it's like out of nowhere. Like everything else, as bizarre as it is, it feels grounded in the world. And by the time you get to the lodge, it was just sort of like, here's a bunch of vignettes that we thought of that would be weird and messed up to make, so we did it. You
Yeah,
know, like it wasn't
here's a
necessarily.
room full of eyeballs.
Yeah, here's what looks like an anus, probably. Um, yeah, but I do. That said, I do wish there were some more of the pacing of the lodge stuff in the first part of the game, because the first part of the game is so like floaty and wandery that I like not got bored of it, but like my first I don't remember how many sessions I spent with this, but like my first few of those, it was like let me do a bit of this, like let me get through it. I think I did like a day or two at a time in a sitting, you know what I mean, that kind of thing, before I'd take a break and come back to it and do something else. I feel like if I'd had something move me along, I might have, I don't know, hung out in there a little bit longer. Maybe. I don't know. The ending, what did you choose?
So fun fact, I did not reach the ending because I got frustrating. at a save point. However, would have chosen probably the save the individual.
Yes. Yeah.
Both endings though,
I looked up.
wild.
Yeah. Yes. Did you expect either of them? I guess there's one core, like,
I mean,
you know,
you're told
reality of this.
like you're told the reality of saving an individual, and I kind of like I just like the end where I was like, all right, well, we're gonna have to move on to the next set. It's like okay. Um, Big fan of the conversation with mom in the the quote, I guess, bad ending.
Yes. That was not the ending I chose, but I watched it and I didn't take notes on it. I don't remember.
He comes back, your side of the road, get into the car, commit murder, but then like it
Got it.
zooms out where he's like playing the game.
Yes, that. Yeah. You're right. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that whole thing. I did write that down actually. Hold on. No, I didn't. Shoot. Yeah, there was something she said though that I was like, that was good. She talked about like, just how bad video games were or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. Um, let's jump into some of how it looks and sounds. Uh, it's like visually, this is not necessarily like a full FMV game. Like in this, if you're thinking like Night Trap, like I wouldn't call it that, but it is like all of the characters are. It's like Mortal Kombat, like they captured real people and you're kind of just controlling it on the screen. All of the backgrounds are. They're not photographs, but they're photorealistic. There's elements that are definitely like, they're using photos and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's got a really weird look that I think kind of still works. What do you think?
I like the way it looks.
Yeah.
I like the way it looks. I like the um going like the brief use. I don't want to say brief because there's a lot of them, but like the little like full motion capture sequences. I like those. I think they get creative with some of the some of the
The kills
weird,
or the death.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Again, getting into the lodge, it just seems like because you have harvest and everything you said is kind of grounded. Besides the nukes on the east side or the west side of the map.
Yeah. But it's at least grounded in its reality.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, yeah.
But then the lodge, it just seems like they had an idea of like, oh, like this could have been cool. Well, let's just throw it in this level. There was a lot
Yeah.
of that, like random clown comes out of
I
nowhere.
liked it. The chainsaw
Yeah.
clown though.
Just,
He was good.
just hanging out.
Having a birthday party for no one.
Yeah, then before that, just the janitor with the mop that just so mad at you being on his floor, just fucking starts shooting you with a nail gun.
Which was good. I liked the nail gun as a weapon. Good. At a good distance.
No, but yeah, like it all looks fine. It looks jarring the way they put like Steve and the actual characters on some of those like you said photorealistic backgrounds, but again, like it works. I just don't know what they could have done with the technology to make it look better, and it doesn't look bad. I would say
No,
if
I like it.
anything, like some stuff like blends into the background too well, like some of the items, especially some key items that you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
Even with a walkthrough telling me it's on the right side of the room, I could not find some switches sometimes.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. Some of that definitely blends. It blends in, blurs a bit. I'm trying to remember like there's some dark rooms where you have to like pick up an item that looks kind of weird. Um no, but I like it. I like how weird it looks overall. I I'm sure there's a ton more that I don't know of. I'm curious how many games like this are out there because I've played so few of them with this look specifically. Um yeah. The game itself kind of leans into I don't know, the way I feel like I've seen people talk about it now and whatever is like how gross and how gnarly it is. Do you feel like it hit that stuff?
Yeah,
Is it hit the
I would say so. Definitely for that age. Um,
yeah,
I mean, by today's standards, like you play a Resident Evil game and it probably beats this in terms of like special effects and gore and all that kind of stuff. But like
sure.
some of this stuff is like shocking. Even like the weird baby scene that you mentioned, like still weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just like also the double like suicide. I don't want to say too much, but like that was like a not that was gory. It was just like a shocker of a FMV.
There were a few, yeah.
Yeah, like
That
stuff like that. But yeah,
in terms of sound, I do love the music. You have that very like
it's,
peaceful.
it's like whimsical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems like the opening of like a kids TV show or something. Um or like a 50s TV show, just like some sort of like House on the Prairie style something. Um
But no, big fan of it.
I
It's
mean,
because it just plays while all this bizarre things are happening. It's just like it's just
yeah,
leans on that satire of like everything's fine. What are you talking about? This is all normal.
yeah. Such a kidder. But then we do have a ton of voice acting. Um and visual acting, I guess, too, because we're mostly capturing. It's not like fully, they do a lot of the like it's like stop motion in a way with the like when it's not full motion video. Um what do you think of the voice acting? Like well done,
It was
too
fine.
over the top?
Uh, like maybe over the top, but also like I think that kind of leans into either by on purpose or by accident. I think just leans into like the whole like satire of the game and the humor of it and the fact that like it doesn't take itself too seriously while taking itself seriously.
Yeah. I don't think anyone was like particularly bad. I think everybody kind of played right along with what they were supposed to represent, I
Yeah, the
think.
creepy
In terms of
dudes gave me the creepy vibes. Like the
yes.
sheriff deputy, weird dude.
Yep.
Mr. Johnson,
Yep.
weird dude.
Very weird dude. Everyone's just kind of a creep for the most part. It's not too unlike reality. What's your lasting impression of Harvester?
Uh, it's another one of these. Definitely the point and click puzzle frustration. Probably need a walkthrough. Um, I think like the setup though and the setting itself of this game are what's going to stand out in this genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Um, the town and how weird all the people are and like the interactions you'll have with it. I think these are different than anything else. Even if you'd like dump the same puzzle types and the same whatever, like, because I think that stuff isn't as strong as some of the strongest adventure games out there. So this makes up for it by having like interesting social commentary at times, a ton of satire, um, and just weird stuff that is fun to see how it plays out. Would you replay this?
Not anytime soon.
Do you want to play other games like it?
Not right away. It's just
I like, yeah,
it takes a lot of patience, and I think you really have to be in the mood. Like I didn't mind play. I didn't hate my playthrough. I just I was not in like the point and click adventure mood.
I know, but that like playing it made me think like I need to find one of these I've not played and try it the right way. So I don't know, maybe like in between seasons when we're not on the grind for, you know, but I even then I don't know what to play or what to go back to or yeah, we'll see. Write in podcast at thefreecheese.com. Which point and click adventure games should we play if we both feel like we kind of hit a wall with these after a while? Um, What would you change about this if you could change something?
Uh, Either get rid of the combat or do something completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Lodge falls apart because of that, of just the reliance on it.
Yeah.
And there's like no like I want to just take a second to talk about the systems here because there's so many of them.
Oh yeah. Hit him. Yeah.
Yeah, you ready? Ready for? There's a lot here. Listen up. You right click the weapon in your inventory, and then you right click, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. You can click low. You can click high. And good luck. It's an animation. Sometimes when you hit with the weapon, it looks like it connects. Other times it doesn't. The animations just kind of play out as they will. Sometimes the deaths are delayed because it's trying to push through an animation, so you might use an extra shotgun shell because of that. It's there's no dodging for those trying to hit you. It's just
No.
a will of right clicking and having the longer weapon. So the scythe.
But even that, like, I don't think the scythe works with the nail gun guy.
Oh yeah, no, let's see. Sorry, bringing the scythe is the equivalent in that scenario. Bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't great. I do.
And I can't stress enough, like the lodge part, especially that third level, I think, really leans into the combat because at like one point you're going like room to room and just taking out people.
Yeah. The only other thing I had that was weird that was just because of hardware translation, but like launching this from Steam, it would launch the DOSBox in full screen, and if I needed to click away for a second for something, back to windowed, just that was kind of messy, like that. So if I wanted to go back to full screen, I had to like save, quit. Then,
I said fuck it.
You just stayed windowed?
I stayed windowed.
I'm sure there's a command to get it back in full screen. I just never looked it up. It was faster for me to just quit and reopen, but yeah. Did you like Harvester overall?
I think it's fine. I think it's like a decent one of these. I think you have to know what you're getting yourself into and be okay with it.
Yeah. But why don't we be okay with ranking Harvester? Over on the list, if you're watching the video version of the podcast, just keep watching because the list is coming. If you're listening, you can follow along at home at thefreecheese.com/thelist. I reviewed this kind of right middle of the road, a little bit higher than that.
I was up and down.
And ranking, I'll throw mine out first.
Okay.
I put it at 92.
92.
Below Obscure, but above Daikatana.
Above Daikatana and below Obscure. Okay. I lower than you. I am at the new 121, which would be between which would be between WWF Betrayal and Top Gear Rally. Let me give this a refresh. Yes, refresh the page. It's correct.
Yeah, I will say, like, when I added this to the place that I had it, I took note of that. Devil's Crush did throw me because Devil's Crush is 102 now, which is such a shame, man. Devil's Crush used to be the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a broken record here. I just kind of, when you start looking, it's like, all right, well, more of these games I think I'd rather play. I think there's a couple, that stand out. But like, I also didn't really know where to rank this because, like, again, I think the first half to 2/3 of this game are really fun if you have the patience to talk to everyone in Harvest. I think this game becomes something completely different and is not as good very very weak in the Laster. What's like you kind of get into the lodge and you kind of realize like the pace of play in that area. Um, so it's like, you know, it's tough because it's tough because like you have to incorporate that last bit into the bit that was a lot of fun. I don't know. Like I went low because I now have forced us to do this, but I have no problems coming up some to
No,
meet you.
because looking at some of the things between me and you, I like Devil's Crush over this. I like Disaster Report 4 over this. I like Uninvited over this. I'm quickly like falling down. Um,
The only thing that throws me
no,
off about what I'm about to
yeah.
say was is maybe Simulacra, but did you want to put it like between Scooby Doo Mystery and Super Star Wars?
Hmm.
And so I move up, and it takes me up like 5 more spots from my spot. You still come down quite a ways, but
We could do that. I was willing to drop down to where you were looking at some of these other things, but
I mean honestly
I did
between
enjoy it. I think this is funny. I think it's a weird experience that you should check out. So yeah. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say like I mean I like Betrayal and for his pick up and play, and I like Guide and whatever, but nah, I could see a world where like I would recommend this for just something weird and out there than those games.
Let's do it. I'm gonna drop it in. The new 116.
116.
Harvester. Another one on the list. And we're gonna keep rolling. Next week we're back with Doom 2016. Just in time for Doom the Dark Ages. So come back and hang out with us for that. Tell a friend about the show if you've not done so recently or ever. And play Harvester if you haven't played Harvester, because it's a weird, fun experience that I don't think you can easily replicate.
No.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Until next week. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for watching, listening, hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.